The Chargers travel to Kansas City to once again wrestle control of the division from the six-time defending division winners, Kansas City. Hi, I'm James of Faithful Angelino Sports with your Week 2 Chargers preview. Now, if you like the content that we're about to give you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We do talk Chargers football here. Now, up through the offseason, through the preseason, and even up to Week 1 versus Vegas, I was telling everybody who was a Chargers fan, every single game in the AFC West is a trap game because the division from top to bottom is spectacular. It doesn't matter if it's Vegas or Denver, or in this case, Kansas City. Well, I would like to amend it a little bit. I think it's not necessarily a trap game in the sense that both sides know exactly what they're getting into in terms of the prestige of this Thursday night game. For example, in addition to winning the AFC West for the last 6 years, Kansas City has won 35 of the last 41 division games. They've won 5 of 6 last year alone. By the way, that one loss was to the Chargers in Kansas City. Hell, LA took the Chiefs to overtime in SoFi Stadium. So both sides know exactly what they're doing. And a lot of the things that the Chargers did in the offseason, in my opinion, was specifically designed to try to take out the Chiefs. And to be honest, the Chiefs are a team in transition right now, all thanks to that big Tyreek Hill trade to Miami in the offseason. Without Hill, Kansas City loses a lot of what I call effective speed. And what I mean by effective speed is that Hill is not only fast, he can catch. Look to, say, Vegas. Back when Vegas was in LA, or when the Raiders, I should say, were in LA, or where they were in Oakland, they were always posting these signs, speed kills. It was a tribute to Cliff Branch, who was the very first game-breaking wide receiver in terms of speed and catching. Since then, the Raiders have tried repeatedly to replicate it, but they drafted people like James Jett. They would draft people like Darius Hayward-Bay, speed merchants who had frying pans for hands, couldn't catch football to save their lives. So the Chiefs were a threat to score on any play because of Tyreek Hill, and then they trade him away. So why would you trade Hill? Well, he wanted big money, and Kansas City had already signed quarterback Patrick Mahomes to a 10-year, $450 million deal. Tough choices have to be made. They really did for Kansas City. It's one of the reasons why when they made the trade with Miami, Kansas City didn't ask for players back. They only asked for 5 draft picks. They needed to save money under the salary cap. And as a result, the Chiefs offense has morphed as a result. And this is going to matter to the Chargers defense, as we'll get to in a second. It is true that the Kansas City Chiefs dropped 44 points to Arizona on Sunday, but how did they do it? Was it big play after big play after big play? No. The longest Chiefs touchdown play was 9 yards. So my guess is that the Chiefs offensive coaching staff knew what they were getting into. They signed Juju Smith-Schuster not as a speedster to replace Hill, because he's not a speedster. They signed Smith-Schuster as a secondary option, just like Travis Kelce, inside route runners who are quick relief options for Patrick Mahomes in the face of a blitz. I think they signed Smith-Schuster specifically to counter the Chargers' blitz. See, because if you blitz, they're both veterans. They're going to know. They're going to call a quick hot route, break off their route short, and be wide open. The Chiefs will move the ball down the field. I think this is a game where if the Chargers injuries to their defense matter, because of course of J.C. Jackson, we'll talk about him in a moment, and in addition to that, do they blitz as much? Do we see maybe more of Nick Bosa or Khalil Mack in pass coverage to try to temper Kelce and to try to temper Smith-Schuster? The running game also has 0 star power without Tyreek Hill, but they averaged 4.7 yards per carry last week in Arizona. Look out for Isaiah Pacheco. He had 62 yards and a touchdown. By the way, we talked about losing speed with the 5 draft picks. They regain a little. Pacheco was the fastest guy on the combine. Arizona Arizona dropped 44 points to Kansas City. They blitzed 51.2% of the time on Mahomes dropbacks. I will grant you LA has a better pass rush, but is there something that the Chargers can learn from that? How many points do you take away if you mix in coverage with blitzing? If you think back to the Kansas City Super Bowl that they lost to Tampa Bay, Tampa only had 2 down linemen. They threw everybody else back in coverage to confuse Mahomes. Would it be wise for the Chargers to consider adding a little bit of that in their defensive philosophy just for this week? See, the Bolts defense is designed to take away the deep pass. Why not flood the zone? Because if Kansas City doesn't have a deep pass, that means they're going to dink and dunk all day. Flood the zone. Prevent Kelsey and Smith-Schuster from going nuts on that situation. Meanwhile, when LA has the ball, I think they're going to miss Keenan Allen a little bit. You might remember Keenan Allen was having a pretty good start to the season against the Raiders. He had 4 receptions for 66 yards. And he pulled up lame with a hamstring injury. It's not looking good for him to play. Usually a mild hamstring strain means you're out a couple of weeks. If it's a hamstring tear, he's going to be out a couple of months. Allen has played Kansas City 13 times, has 82 receptions, and 934 yards. Major contributor for the Chargers. If it were me, because of that, without Keenan Allen, I would try to establish the run. Austin Eckler wasn't helpful versus the Raiders, but Kansas City's linebackers are green. Yeah, the play caller in the linebacking core is a second-year player. Now, I will grant you that second-year player, Nick Bolton, did have 10 tackles that week. But I think Eckler could make a little money if he tries to go up the middle on these guys. And they're definitely going to need a lot more out of Mike Williams and Joshua Palmer, the second and third receivers. Williams had 2 catches for 10 yards. Palmer had 3 for 5. I mean, if you really look back to that Raiders game, it is true that Herbert was very good. But he didn't get a lot of help around him. It was that defense that won that game. J.C. Jackson, as I mentioned earlier, we do have an update on him. He has been practicing this week. It's limited, though, so it still appears to be a game-time decision for the Bolts. Now, if it were me, in all candor, I think the injuries to Jackson and to Keenan Allen are going to be a lot to overcome for L.A. I honestly lean toward the Chiefs. But considering how close these matchups have been, particularly from last year, and considering the changeover from the Kansas City roster, by all means, tell me what you think in the comments. I wouldn't put money, I wouldn't bet my entire life savings on either side for this game. You tell me what you think. Now, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelinos. We talk Chargers football here. I'm James. Thanks for watching. Faithful Angelinos is a Corte El Queso production. Take care.